tonight's show. I don't know how I sound because I am using a brand new microphone that is not mine, but I am just seeing how it sounds. I'm testing it out. And this is a pro mic right here. Not that old reliable isn't a pro mic either. This is a shotgun condenser microphone, and this is a big daddy right here. This is a beautiful premium tank. It's kind of like a tank. So I got to be very careful. I have to stay on mic or else, and I don't want to be too on mic because then I'll be blowing it out. So if anybody watches this, you just let me know how I am. Okay? You tell me what good for. So welcome to tonight's show. We're back again with week 2. I meant to do week 2 yesterday, and because I tucked my daughter in to bed, and she is the most cuddly, snuggly person in the world, and I passed out. I just straight up passed out, and that was the end of me for the night. And I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to do the show, and now the show hasn't been done. So that's me being an accountability buddy, being accountable for the situation. Can I be kind of like this? How do I sound? Hey, cousin Jody Ramone, how do I sound right now? Do I sound okay? What about when I go way out here? Do I sound okay? I'm curious to know. If anybody would know, it would be you. So you tell me. Got a couple of housekeeping items before I continue with the show to take care of. Well, let's just get started. So I received some packages in the mail. Okay, Jody says it sounds good. Thank you, cousin Jody. I received, once again, Toxic Media has sent me, I guess Toxic Media watched the last episode because they sent me this. What I received in the mail from Toxic Media. Wow, the dedication is just, this is unreal. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Yes. So Toxic Media, who the address label, sent me my complaint, my I guess in my this is too funny. This is a note. Look at this. This is a note from whoever is behind this. Should have thought of that sooner. Check. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, Toxic Media. Do you hear that jumping? My son is jumping up and down. Look at this. Fiend Club flyer. Oh my God. We have the it's amazing. This is for Evil Live. Evil Live insert right here. Just beautiful reproduction. Has a really nice feel to it. Look at this. We have the Halloween insert, lyric insert there. And of course, oh wow, this has a really nice feel to it. The bullet lyric sheet. How could they forget that? And then Misfits Fiend Club folder insert thing. We got 2 of those. And then of course my old buddy Dave Street, R.I.P. Dave, the Dave Street insert for Horror Business. Well, that was a wonderful surprise. Thank you so much, Toxic Media. Who is this Toxic Media guy? Who, man, it really is such an endorphin rush to get like unmarked packages in the mail. I mean, I'm like, maybe a slight, I'm like, oh my God, my address. But at the same time, it's like whoever did this really cares. And it's beautiful. I'm going to put these all with their records accordingly. The records that go in the box set. Beautiful box set. We did a whole video on that. So check that out. And then we have another package that we need to open. This is from Say 10 Records. And Say 10 Records is the record label for one of my just like gosh darn favorite bands. I love these guys. I've licensed their music for my feature-length films. If you watch Romeo's Distress, you can hear Wolf Face songs in the soundtrack. Very soon there will be music. I need to talk to them. I need to get them paperwork for my second feature film, Gouge Away, which I hope will all be available to you soon in some way, shape, or form. And this is from Say 10 Records, which is their record label, and they put this message right here: fragile. What does fragile mean? Gotta hold on a second. Knock it off. Yeah, he heard that. You heard that thud? So this says fragile, but more importantly, what I really like right here. Do you see what that says? For rectal use only. For rectal use only. That's perfect. So apparently, whatever's inside here, this flat envelope is meant to go in a rectum. I guess, what is it, like a credit card? You're supposed to swipe it or something? I don't know. Let's unbox it and see what's in here. I need to know now. From Say 10 Records. I got to tell you, Say 10 Records, they do such fine quality work with their releases, man. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Really, really, truly. It's not the first time I have had records come from Say 10 Records. Let's use our little doohickey. I have a little doohickey here for opening things up. I was like, I got to wait for the next stream to do this. Got to see what's inside. Here we go. A little fingernail tool. I want to somehow save for rectal use only. Of course, it would be for rectal use only. It's a Wolfface record. I mean, I would expect nothing less. I directed a music video for Wolfface for their song "Owen is a Dracula." You can watch that on their channel. Everybody go subscribe to Wolfface and go subscribe to Say 10 Records if they're out there. I don't know. Let's take a look at this beautiful puppy right here. All good dogs. All dogs go to heaven. Remember that. Oh, I keep bumping this mic. Biping this mic. Hold on a second. How do I open this up? There's got to be a way. Here we go. Nope. All right. Let's see if I... There's probably some record nerd who's like, you suck at doing that. There you go. I love doing that. I love peeling the cardboard off. Let's see what's inside. That is beautiful. Ah, God. All right. This is already annoying me. This microphone. Oh, is that is gorgeous right there. Oh, and they brought me some stickers. I got a Say 10 sticker right there. And here's another one. I actually have one of these on the back of my car. Friggin' awesome. Love that so much. And of course, we have the incredible 12th year anniversary repressing of Wolfface's record, Still a Son of a Bitch. This album means so much to me. I can't tell you how much this album, which is about, it's a concept record about Teen Wolf, the movie Teen Wolf. That's literally what this is about. And, you know, I don't remember how I found Wolfface. They were on Facebook, and I was like, you know, I've talked about my love for No Bunny, and you know, we really haven't had a heart-to-heart yet about No Bunny. But what I thought was interesting about Wolfface is that they also had animal masks like No Bunny, and they had the lead singer Michael J. Wolf. He wears tighty whities like No Bunny, and I'm like, these guys kind of remind me of, there's like a No Bunny energy in that kind of way. I don't know, not musically per se, but I'm thinking in my head like, wow, there's synergy here. That's really beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And so they had a song called I'm a Son of a Bitch, and that was the song where I was like, this band speaks to me in some way, shape, or form. And then they released, it was right around that time, they released a music video for I Want to Be a Homo Sapien. And here we go. Is this on black? Yeah, just black vinyl. Or maybe it's like a gray. I can't tell. What does that look like to you? This record I've listened to this record so many times over and over and over again. Before I start, whenever I'm gonna go shoot a movie, like shoot a day on my feature, for me, those are the most agonizing days. Those are days where like it's gonna make or break me because of the way I make movies. I make micro budget, independent feature length films. And so to get me like pumped up for the shoot, I put this record on. Henry says, "Hey, what's up, Henry?" Henry says that it looks gray. Yeah, it does look. It has like a gray sheen to it. Um, when I'm getting ready, for me, it's like going into battle, and so I put this record on, and it's like I'm getting my game face on. And this is, I don't know, this is kind of about that in a way. I love the drawings on the back. Look at all the drawings. You got some cocks. Go Beavers. That's just so my humor, man. These guys get me. They do. They really do. And they have names. There's Michael J. Wolf. There's Rain Wolf. There is Wolf Fart. And who is the last wolf? Oh, my God. I am forgetting the rest of the names of Wolfface. I'm missing one. There's Rain Wolf, Wolf Fart, Michael J. Wolf. Who's the last one? Oh, I'm going to feel terrible for not knowing it. Either way, I put this record on when I'm feeling really nervous right before a film shoot, and it gets me in the zone. And I just I go out there to fucking win, to play the game and to win. And this is my charging call into battle, this album. And I'll listen to it. It gets like my heart pumping and makes me like, I don't know, I get real angry, like not like angry in a bad way, but angry like I get like a 50-yard stare or something. I can't explain it. And it's a record. It's like a very tongue-in-cheek record, but not for me, because like there are like real emotions and feelings in the words and lyrics, particularly what are you looking at, Dick Nose? I drive the waves. Don't you know who I am? The wolf's friend. What are you looking at, Dick Nose? I feed the best. I feed the beast. I wrote the cheer. I designed the tea. I created this brand, and I will see it through to the end because I'm the wolf's friend. And it's funny. That sounds like such a goofy thing, but to me, it's actually a song about the id and the ego. It's about a conversation someone has with themselves and how they are sort of turning away from their own ego to like follow their heart. I know that doesn't really make sense. It makes sense to me though. And so I really do appreciate this. And then lo and behold, the first time I'm ever listening to this record, I'm like, I'm digging this record. I love this record. And there's a cover by Nobody. And that's when I knew that these were my people. I was like, oh my God, of course they love Nobody. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. They have an I Am a Girlfriend. And, now that Nobody is gone, like the song belongs to them now. I betroth the song I Am a Girlfriend by Nobody to Wolfface, who they've adopted it now, I think. I don't know if they still play it live. I've never seen them live. I've directed a music video for them, but I've never seen them live. And there was a time we almost worked together right before the pandemic hit, and we didn't get a chance to. But all these songs, Came to Play, Love Me, Rub Me, Fuck Me, Werewolf, such just really important songs for me. Put Me In, Coach, On Second Thought, Go Fuck Yourself. Like these songs speak to my soul. They really do. There's plenty of room in my den, but no room for a bitch. These are real song titles. And like, for instance, in Tonight, there's like a little Easter egg. Like it says, Tonight, I was dancing in her arms, but I want your skull, but I need his skull tonight. So, that's like a nod to Skulls by the Misfits. These guys get it. They really get it. And their second record, which I also have, Still Golden, incredible record as well. And I put some of that music in my movies. And the reason why is because Wolfface is my band. It's like, it really is. It's like a sports team for me as much as it is. And this is I don't follow sports. This is my sports. Okay. I'm a Wolfface guy. I'm a, I don't know if they have a name. I'm part of, and that's right there. And I had Michael J. Wolf. He was on Pizza Punk many years ago. That's right there. That's Michael J. Wolf. Okay, and god damn, I can't remember the rest of, oh, here it is. Wolf Faces, Michael J. Wolf, Rain Wolf, Good Wolf, and Wolf Fart. I was missing the Good Wolf, so there's Good Wolf as well. Go look up their music videos, man. The music video for I Want to Be a Homo Sapien, I'd say that's their big iconic song that everybody knows. But I did a song for them. I did a music video for Owen is a Dracula, and it was like literal. It was very literal, and a lot of fun to make it. And Wolfface is in it, even though they're down in Florida, they are in the music video. And yeah, it was a shame that I didn't actually own the record. I think I had purchased it digitally many years ago. Or no, you know what? They just gave me, I think they gave me no, you know what it was? They had their music for free, man. They had their music for free. So I had on Bandcamp, go follow them on Bandcamp. So I had gotten the record on Bandcamp, but I didn't properly own it. And I was like, this is a record. Like it's embarrassing that I don't own this record. And so I'm so glad to now own a copy of this record. Go pick it up. I can't recommend this record enough. I really can't. It's silly. It's goofy. It is deeply, deeply sentimental to me. And there are lots of deep feelings and emotions. I don't think Michael J. Wolf will ever truly admit that, but I know deep down inside, I know. So Wolfface, still a son of a bitch. One of my, I think I need to do I need to do some sort of like feature about like record endorsements. This is a record endorsed by me, Jeffrey Murdergram. Am I allowed to still go by that name? I don't know. In any case, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a quick minute to take a look at a message from our sponsor, Riot Stickers. Riot Stickers is the place you should be going to get your stickers for all your sticker needs. They don't just do stickers. They also do banners, buttons. They do drum heads. They do T-shirts. They do all sorts of things. And you can get your stuff taken care of. We have a special promotion with Riot Stickers. You can get 1,000 stickers for $79 with free shipping when you go to riotstickers.com/Frumess, Frumess. Link is down in the description. You go there, get your order filled by Sharpie Riot, CEO Sharpie Riot himself. He'll take care of you. And yeah, man, riotstickers.com, because they are the bomb. We'll be right back. We're going to dive into our Halloween watches right after this break.
Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. We are the bomb. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. We are the bomb. We are the bomb. We are the bomb. We are the bomb.
Yes. Oh, and I'm back. I'm back, baby. I'm back just in time. All right. Now it is time for us to talk about things we watch. So this is, I invite you to participate. Like, what have you been watching? I want to know. I want to know what you've been watching. I want you to tell me. All right, let's take a look. Where's my, oh crap. What did I do with my thing? My little, here it is. Okay. So to start us off with, all right. Okay. This, sorry. Let me do that again. Okay. I was like, I don't want to keep watching movies because then I'm going to have to talk about them. And I can't get too far ahead of the situation. That would just be really annoying. It happens from time to time where I watch them too fast and too furious. Okay, so here is our first in my continued watch journey. So we have Green Room. We have Green Room from 2015, directed by Jeremy Saulnier. I don't know how to say I don't know how to say anybody's name, but Jeremy Saulnier. He did Murder Party. He also did Blue Ruin, and he's directed a few things after Green Room. I think Green Room is his best movie. I'm a big fan of Green Room. The synopsis: a punk rock band is forced to fight for survival after witnessing an act of violence at a skinhead bar. So like not just a skinhead bar, like it's like a neo-Nazi compound, right? And it's a brutal film. It's a siege film, right? It's a siege film. It's a transgressive film, I would say too. It's got teeth. It's got teeth. Here's what I said about it. This viewing really got to me. I had a similar experience, sans violence and murder, and it was after watching this movie in the theater 10 years ago that I realized what I had went through was not some novelty. It was a serious situation, and under different circumstances, I could have been very hurt. So we're going to a quick story time. So this movie comes out, right? I'm watching in the theater, and I'm sort of like, I like to consider myself, I don't know how I would consider myself. I'm a punk rock guy, and so I look for authenticity in things that I'm watching, especially as it relates to the punk rock subculture in some sense, right? In some sort of way, shape, or form. And so I'm watching Green Room, and I distinctly remember watching this thinking, oh, yeah, that's, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like, just talking about like the authenticity of trying to capture like the punk subculture, like an aspects of the punk subculture in a variety of ways. And as I'm watching this movie unfold, I'm thinking to myself, wow, like that could never happen, or would this ever happen, or how would this ever happen? And suddenly realizing, wow, this is actually incredibly plausible. And the reason why I feel that I can speak to that is because I had been through that experience. I've been through this experience, like not in the same exact way, but I was sort of I was in this experience. I don't know how else to say it. Here's the story time. So in 2012, I've told the story on the show before. I've told the story a few times, maybe twice on the show. But I've never really spoken about it in its full context, especially as it relates to like now in 2025, after like just so much has happened. And so after I had watched this movie, here's the story time. In 2012, I toured with a band called Blitzkid. I was their videographer. They're in their entourage, right? I toured with them across Europe, and I toured with them across America. We did the American tour first. We went down into the bowels of Georgia, Augustus, Georgia. It was Augustus, Georgia. And it was just, in the middle of summer, right? It was July of 2012. It was July of 2012. And we're driving through. Sorry, I'm like telling this all wrong. We play a show at this club, and the sound man happens to be, he's affiliated with a motorcycle club, and he says we can crash at his motorcycle club. He brings us to this compound in the middle of nowhere, in like the deep woods of the South. And mind you, I've told the story in great detail. I'm not going to tell it in such great detail right now, but if you ever want to really hear the story, go back. You'll find it in like Blitzkid Tour Stories or whatever, one of those videos. That's where I really tell it in like complete detail. But basically, we're in the South. We go to this motorcycle club compound. I won't say the name of the motorcycle club. And we get there, and I mean, look, we are incredibly isolated. If something bad happened to somebody, nobody would find out. Let's put it that way. There was a well on the property, and it's funny. I do video journals, and I have the video journal from that day. You can see the uneasiness in my like facial expressions and whatnot. Like, I do not feel good to be there, and I did the best that I could. But at the time, I was still, even though I was uncomfortable, once I was out of there, I kind of treated it like a joke. It was like kind of like whatever. And I realized in hindsight, that was me making light of what was actually a really crazy situation. And that was further intensified by watching the movie Green Room. I watched Green Room and I thought back to that time. I was like, wait a minute, that was actually really fucked up. What happened to me was really fucked up. I was with a bunch of guys. I'm a Jew, and I'm with a bunch of guys who are not Jewish, and they have absolutely no fucking problem. And if they do have a problem, they don't fucking say nothing about it. They don't try to apologize to me or anything. They're just totally content for the hospitality, I guess, in that moment. And it fucked me up. It kind of fucks me up to think about it, that, here we are on this insane place, and like there's no effort to leave. Like, why aren't we leaving? You know what I mean? I'm not driving. I don't have access to keys. I can't get out of there. I'm in a place where, and here at the time, though, here's the thing. At the time, I'm like, I'm the only Jew who's probably ever been on this compound. Everybody's signing their names on the wall. And I was like, I'm not going to sign my name on the wall. I'm going to fucking draw a Star of David and hide it behind a lampshade, which was the dumbest possible thing I could have done at the time. But, again, just because I'm Jewish doesn't mean that I necessarily, there's not like Jew is written on my fucking forehead. And the guitar player even turned to me and he says, this has been burned into my brain. He says, good thing you're Italian, right? Frumess. That's what he said. And that's been a running joke, like with that guy ever since. And people who I've told that story to. And, again, I remember we went back to the home base of where we were staying with these people, really nice people. And I told them the story, and they kind of shrugged at it. They didn't think it was a big deal at all. And so then I started thinking, maybe it's not a big deal at all. But the reason why I did draw the Star of David was really for the story. I was like, this is a crazy situation. I'm going to draw the Star of David in this place. Now, what was it that made it like a not so savory place? I mean, they had fucking swastika flags and, Confederate flags up on the ceiling. They had World War I helmets. They were some sort of white supremacist neo-Nazis. And I had somehow found myself in this place with a punk rock band. And, again, like, it's kind of amazing. They all knew I was Jewish. You know what I mean? Nothing. Crickets. Nothing. Like, really kind of shitty when you think about it. Really shitty. And I've sort of sat with that for many, many years. I never, I sat with it, but it's always kind of bugged me in the years since, especially as, relationships have changed and whatnot. And now the situation leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Again, what I did was really stupid. What I did could have gotten me killed in some way, shape, or form. Who knows? I chose to do it. It was very stupid. It could have been one of those things where it's like, I'm going to do this to hide my discomfort in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, man. I did not sleep under the Nazi flag like other people chose to do. I was like, I'm not going to sleep under a Nazi flag. No fucking way. And I went to the bus, the box truck, and I slept in there with one other individual instead. And that was that. I was like, I'm not sleeping under a Nazi flag as a Jew. Not going to do it. Even back then, that to me was like a line I was not willing to cross. And I also had drawn the Star of David in defiance, as sort of like a fuck you. And again, them playing Nazi punks fuck off to a bunch of fucking Nazis I say that it's plausible because I, as a fucking Jew, drew a fucking not a swastika, a Star of David in a place where there was a giant fucking Nazi flag hanging over me. You know what I mean? I was not the only swastika that was there. It was a very intense situation. So when I watch Green Room now, it just hits differently. It hits differently because I am reminded of what I went through, and sort of being able to recognize and be like, hey, that was really fucked up. That was fucked up. We don't realize things are fucked up at the time. We only realize them afterwards. Green Room itself, it's the writing is great. The some of it feels, some of the punk elements are a little like contrived, little bit kind of goofy. The guy at the beginning is kind of goofy with his zine and desert island pics. It's a little silly. It's fine. It's totally fine. I kind of wish we had more time with the band before they get to the compound. Patrick Stewart as Darcy is amazing. Macon Blair is amazing. This was Anton Yeltsin, who plays the bass player. He's the lead. This is his last film that was released while he was alive. He was great. It's a siege movie, man. It's a genre siege movie. They weaponize dogs. This was the first time that I really watched it with the dialogue on. So I was like, really, it's amazing the premeditated murder that they're attempting to commit against this band. They're witnesses to a murder in the Green Room. There's like this kind of convoluted plot around this attempted murder or this successful murder of this scene chick, this groupie chick. And they're witnesses. This non-neo-Nazi band is witnesses, and it basically they have to go. It's either they go or the whole compound goes under. And the dialogue in this part of the movie is really great. Sorry, I feel like I'm doing a terrible job at like reviewing what this movie is. It's great though. It is great. I think that I'm trying to think. I've never really been a big fan of how the movie ends. I don't know. It just I feel like the movie kind of runs out of steam, and I always kind of wondered if Jeremy was writing this and he just wrote himself into a wall. Like what's the missed opportunity? I don't know what it is. I just feel like maybe it could have been different. Maybe it could have been better. Maybe it could have wrapped around better. They're just sort of left there on the side of the road waiting for the cops to come. It could have been more. I don't know. The back and forth. It really would make I think it would make a really great double feature with Romper Stomper. If you've never seen Romper Stomper, which stars Russell Crowe, it's another neo-Nazi movie. I love like punk rock and like neo-Nazi subculture movies. I find them fascinating. There's Scum with Tim Roth. There's Romper Stomper, American History X. I would say that Green Room shares a lot of DNA with American History X as well. Stacy Keach is kind of like a very similar character to Darcy, played by Patrick Stewart, who is just absolutely bone-chilling in his performance. And it's just like, it's the use of terminology and the way that they're just so calculated. They're like, okay, these people have to go. We have to dispose of them without guns. So we're going to use dogs. And we'll set it up that they were trespassing and they got their throats ripped out by dogs. And then they have to kill the dogs. And the one guy, he's like, yeah, just promise me my dog is going to die with meat in his mouth. Just really cold-blooded stuff. I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, man, it's just interesting though. Overall, like I just feel like I did a really shitty job of explaining this. Overall, it's amazing how you can watch a movie and it connects to like a real situation that you encountered in your life. And you're just like, whoa, that's actually quite possible because I was in that situation, and I was surrounded by people who were indifferent, and if they weren't indifferent, they sure acted indifferent. In fact, they got mad at me for drawing a Star of David when they found out that I had done it. Only the guitar player had seen it, one of the guitar players. And I didn't tell anybody what I had done because I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to freak anybody out. I didn't want to make things worse, but I felt like I had to do it. And it was something that I didn't think that anybody would necessarily understand. And for years afterwards, I told that story proudly, and then, like I said, it was after watching Green Room, like really recontextualized. And I was like, wow, what a fucked up situation. And wow, I put myself in the situation, but I also was sort of helpless in that situation. Like let's play a what if I had, used very poor judgment to draw that Star of David, and our host, who was very nice and very hospitable for being a neo-Nazi or whatever the fuck he was. What if he had seen me and like decided to just, beat the shit out of me or hurt me or even, commit such bodily harm that I die from my injuries? There was a well on the compound property, and I thought, my God, if you wanted to throw someone down this well, they would just disappear. They would be gone forever, And yeah, I sound like maybe I'm like being overly dramatic, but I don't know, man. I don't think I am. It was a crazy situation. I got to move on. To the next movie. It's calendar time for Buddy. Okay, next movie we have is Sinister. Okay, Sinister, starring Ethan Hawke, directed by Scott Derrickson, from 2012. True crime writer Ellison Oswald is in a slump. He hasn't had a bestseller in more than 10 years, and he's becoming increasingly desperate for a hit. So when he discovers the existence of a snuff film showing the deaths of a family, he vows to solve the mystery. He moves his own family into the victim's home and gets to work. However, when old film footage and other clues hint at the presence of a supernatural force, Ellison learns that living in the house might be fatal. And that really pretty much sums up what happens. It's got some good atmosphere. My friend Darren, who lives down the street from me, he's like my Alamo buddy. We go to the Alamo Draft House. He loves horror movies too. And he has been telling me for years, since he moved to the neighborhood a few years back, he's been like, you got to see Sinister. You have to watch Sinister. And I promise him every year I'm going to watch Sinister. And every year I don't, because I really did not have any interest. And he puts all his stock on how great of a movie it is. It was okay. It's not really my jam, and that's why I avoided it for as long as I did. I think it's not my bag, man. It's atmospheric. It's well made. Ethan Hawke delivers a pretty good performance. It rides the line. There are some supernatural elements to it, and I kind of don't like that. I kind of want things either to be really grounded in reality, or I want them to be super supernatural. And this one doesn't really like pick a side of the fence, and for some reason that bothered me. And the end, the reveal is kind of predictable. It's a little predictable. And spoilers, there's a force that corrupts the children to commit these murders. And then the families get added to the collection of snuff films that get, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess. I really, listen, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it was based in reality of like, there's like this thread of like, the cops hate this guy because he's a true crime writer and he makes the police look bad. You know what I mean? And it would have been kind of more interesting if it was sort of a cover up with the I don't know. That's me armchair quarterbacking it. It's okay. It's entertaining. I think it would have worked better for me if I had seen it in the theater. It was a little bit harder for me to watch at home. I had to watch it in chunks. That's not the movie's fault. That's just because I kept passing out late at night. Because I'm just underslept, overworked, and whatever, and trying to watch horror movies all at the same time. They made a sequel. I don't think I will be checking out the sequel. What would I do differently? I don't know, man. It just, the thing is, like, supernatural shit has to really hit the right kind of way for me. I'm not afraid of no ghosts. You know what I mean? I just like, there's just stuff like The Ring. I'm not interested in The Ring, the videotape. You watch the videotape, you're going to die in 8 days. Like, these things don't scare me. They just never. I am absolutely firmly in like the body horror camp more than anything. That's really my bread and butter is body horror, man. That does it for me. Zombies do it for me. Wilderness situations, fucked up scenarios that could really happen to you, where I can project myself into the protagonist of the situation. Those are the movies that really do it for me when it comes to horror and genre stuff. And stuff like Sinister, it just doesn't, like The Conjuring. I don't even bother with any of those. I saw the first Conjuring, I was like, and that's perhaps why The Exorcist, I just was not really ever keyed into The Exorcist, in part because I'm not a Christian. And I feel like for The Exorcist to be like as effective, like truly deeply effective, you have to have some sort of relationship with the Christian faith. I really believe that. I really do. And I think that's not like that's sort of a gross generalization. But I feel like in order for it to be really, truly effective in the way that people talk about The Exorcist, that's what needs to happen. For me, I was like, I'm not afraid of the fucking devil, man. I don't believe in him. I do. Of course, I do believe in the devil, but you know what I mean? I'm not afraid of like burning in hell. That stuff doesn't get to me, man. It just doesn't. But for people who grew up in religion and the specter of hell always like hanging over their head, I understand why that would affect you. So I understand, and Sinister isn't exactly that. I'm sort of veering away from the situation, but I don't know. That's basically my 2 cents on it. Excuse me. What do we got next? All right, we're working our way through. I was like, shit, I got too many movies. Oh boy, yes. All right, so for this next movie, wow, I really hate Letterboxd with their ads, man. It just shit gets fucked up. Here we go. For my next movie, Witchfinder General, aka The Conqueror Worm, from 1968, directed by Michael Reeves. He'll hang, burn, and mutilate you. He's the ... Witchfinder General, aka Vincent Price, of course. The delectable Vincent Price. England, 1645. The cruel civil war between the royalists and the parliamentarians that is ravaging the country causes an era of chaos and legal arbitrarianists that allows unscrupulous men to profit by exploiting the absurd superstitions of the peasants, like Matthew Hopkins, a monster disguised as a man who wanders from town to town offering his services as a witch hunter. And that pretty much, again, that sums it up so perfectly. Much like I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan, as some of you know, and I'm out there like on a quest to watch every Nicolas Cage film ever made. But the same holds true for Vincent Price. I love me Vincent Price in the same way that I love Nicolas Cage. And, I recently had the thought to myself, man, who would be the perfect star for a Vincent Price biopic would be Nicolas Cage. He would crush it. He would crush it as Vincent Price. How would it work? I don't exactly know, but it would work. Nicolas Cage would find a way to embody Vincent Price in the most wonderful way, in the most scenery chewing way. It would be delicious and wonderful. So yeah, this guy, Matthew Hopkins, he roams around the countryside. He accuses people. He gets caught up with this soldier and his wife, and the priest, and she's like, I'll let you sleep with me if you spare this priest. And so he's like kind of down with that because he's a really corrupt dude. And he's wicked, man. He really is. He's a wicked guy. And, all you got to know is you got to know what witchfinders were all about. They basically went around, accused people of being witch, put them into trials. Like, hey, if you sink, then you weren't a witch, and you'll die clean. But if you are a witch and you float, then we're going to burn you. So it's like you're condemned to death no matter what, based on our accusation. But like, there's a chance that your soul will be excused, your immortal soul, which is what people really cared about quite a bit back in the day, right? Like your immortal soul. And this guy, this soldier guy, he goes to get revenge against Matthew Hopkins, and he gets it. And there are some gnarly witch burnings, not witch burnings, people burnings, right? Because innocent people, these are all innocent people. This movie is set in like there's no supernatural elements. Going back to like what I was just talking about with Sinister, like I love that Witchfinder General is actually set in like a real world where witches obviously don't really exist. The wickedness, the horrifying element is the Witchfinder General, and not the fact that there might be witches. Kind of like The Witch, right? The Witch, you're not sure if there's are the witches real or not? Actually, that's not true. You know immediately that the witches are real, right? Like that, you find out pretty darn quick that they're real. But there's like a moment where you're kind of like wondering, kind of like, oh, actually like Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage and Ron Perlman, where they're escorting this witch to be burned. And they're like, is she a witch? Is she not a witch? We're not really sure. And there's that whole kind of element, right? And they don't have that in Witchfinder General, AKA the Conqueror Worm. It's just, he just accuses people. And he's got this henchman who is just a cruel piece of shit as well that works for him. And he's out for himself, and he just loves going around, and he just profits by, back in the day, you could make your money being on a horse, and just walking around town being like, hey, you're a witch. And they hold trials and yada, yada, yada. And of course, the people who are very superstitious, they get on board. They're on board for this condemnation of innocent people. It's horrible. It's horrible. And there's this one burning at the end. They put her up on like a ladder, crucifix type thing, and they lower her into the fire. I've never seen anything like it, man. It was brutal for 1968. And of course, Matthew Hopkins, aka Vincent Price, he meets his end by way of hatchet at the end. It's pretty great. Although I kind of feel like he should have been burned at the stake. That would have been the proper ending for a guy like Matthew Hopkins. Just another great Vincent Price. You're never going to go wrong with a Vincent Price movie, even the weak ones, because Vincent Price is so entertaining. He's so magnetic to watch. And he stars in the movie, but he's not in it. He's not the byline through the whole film. There are other people. So for me, like my favorite Vincent Price films are the ones where it's just all Vincent all the time. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that are the best. Highly recommend it. This is streaming on Prime. Go check it out. Witchfinder General. All right, baby. On to the next one. Here we go. Okay. So this had been on my watch queue forever. It was on Shudder for a while. I watched this on Canopy. It's called The Queen of Spades from 1949, directed by Thorold Dickinson. What a name. Thorold. Like Harold, but with Thor. So you're Thorold. Her obsession with gambling led her to discover a sinister pact that destroyed her life. And I don't think that's not really very well portrayed in the movie, by the way. An elderly countess strikes a bargain with the devil and exchanges her soul for the ability to always win at cards. An army officer who is also a fanatic about cards murders her for the secret and then finds himself haunted by the woman's spirit. And that's kind of a bummer that like the synopsis on Letterboxd gives you all of that. It's a slog of a movie, man. Like, here's the thing. I love old movies like this because I love the sets. I love the period piece aspects. This takes place in Russia, but everybody's English. It's one of those situations where, consequently, everybody has an English accent despite being Russian. And it kind of reminds me very much of, I don't know if you've ever seen Catherine the Great. It's one of those great epics from the 40s. It kind of reminds me, it's very similar to that in a way. And they play this game called Pharaoh, which is a card game, and that's how people gamble. And it actually has the bones of a Tales from the Crypt episode almost. And yeah, the countess, this guy is trying to get close to the countess, and he does it through this servant. He like falls in love with her. He tries to make her fall in love with him. And he finally gets to her because he just wants to double and triple his fortunes. He goes to the gambling houses. This dude, he goes to the gambling house. His name is Herman, And night after night he watches them play, but he never actually plays because he doesn't want to risk his life fortune, his life savings. And then he accidentally murders the countess, but she comes back as like an apparition, and she's like, I'll help you. For some reason she's willing to help him, and so she does. Big spoilers here, but you're not watching this movie for the plot, you're watching this movie for the atmosphere and the sets. And again, it does kind of have like a Tales from the Crypt vibe to it. Like if it was made in, like, if it was more gory, it would just fit perfectly with like a Tales from the Crypt episode. And spoilers, you know, he triples his like life savings. She helps him as a ghost. She helps him all the way until like the very end, where he like is about to triple his money, and then she kind of like tricks him, and he ends up losing all of his life savings, and that's the end of the movie. This movie could have been 80 minutes long, and it's not. It's like 100 minutes long, and it's a slog in places, and that's probably why it took me so long. I probably had 3 to 4 false starts over the years trying to watch this movie. This was the first time I was able to actually sit down and get through it. And I guess that's a bad I guess that's a bad way to like talk about a movie like that you're reviewing. Legitimately, if you like old time movies, you will enjoy this. You will enjoy this no matter what. If you're watching this, like the thing about these older movies is that sometimes the pacing is just really hard to tolerate. And I would say that that's true with The Queen of Spades. Still, I did enjoy it. It's based on a play. There was a play, and there's also a short story that it's based on. And this is a film adaptation. It's worth checking out. Oh, it's 96 minutes long. It's 96 minutes long. Yeah, it's a bit of a slog, man. But still, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the atmosphere. Like I said, I fall in love with the sets and the costumes, and I could watch movies just for that stuff alone. And maybe it's because I'm really into like production designing, and like that's my jam. You know, it's like my favorite thing to do after writing and directing and editing, or maybe alongside of it. So yeah, that's The Queen of Spades. Up next, we have probably the highlight of my watching season thus far. This was such a fucking fun romp. You know, every year Shudder has been blessing us with a new VHS anthology, and this year is no different with VHS Halloween. We get a whole collection of Halloween themed videotapes that unleashes a series of twisted, blood-soaked tales, turning trick or treat into a struggle for survival. I say this every year, but it's true. I will never get tired of watching these VHS movies. Bring them on, baby. Whatever may be the case. And they get better and better and better every year, man. And I'm looking forward to someday going back and revisiting like the best segments, man. Well, I'll probably watch the movies in full. This year was good. I would say this year was not as good as last year's or the years before that. The Long Way Back from the one where they come back from hell is like that. I just don't know how they're gonna, or the game show one. Those are from the last 2 years. This had some really good ones though. So, and I have the Wikipedia open so I can remember all. So the wraparound, we have Diet Phantasma, which is the framing narrative, and that's directed by Brian M. Ferguson. And it's kind of like a in-house. It's for in-house purposes only. And there's this experiment. It's a testing. It's like a testing video. They're testing. The Octagon Company is planning to launch. They have this new soda. It's called Diet Phantasma, and they just bring in various test subjects to try this formula for the beverage before it's put out onto the shelves. However, all of the subjects aren't aware. You're not really sure if they're aware or if they're unaware. All the subjects are unaware that the soda is made with the extract of various ghosts and supernatural entities, and we don't learn until the very end what that's the hook, like that's the punchline. We don't learn what the punchline is until the end credits roll, which I thought was really great, because they're kind of amorphous, you know what I mean? Like it's just, we just see the same thing happening over and over again, although I would say the deaths are getting more and more intense as they're trying to perfect the formula, you know what I mean? And eventually, you know, what happens is they open up the can, they take a sip, they meet a horrible, gruesome end in a variety of ways. Sometimes the can like tries to like suck them into the can, or like tentacles come out of the can, or they spew sludge, they get possessed, all sorts of stuff. They explode, and then the room has to be cleaned up, and they have new subjects. And there's this guy, it's headed up by this guy who's named Ross Shield, which I don't like that his name is Ross Shield because it implies something, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that. His name's Ross Shield, and he's just this really sadistic, who's sort of indifferent to the danger that they're in when they're sort of have this diet phantasma. I love that diet phantasma. They got to print out shirts. That's just so great. And then at the very end, we're left with this advertisement for this new Halloween beverage. I love that. It's kind of like a play up on like Tab, like diet soda, like Diet Coke soda culture of the 80s. It's pretty great. Next up is Coochie Coochie Coo, and this is directed and written by Anna Zolokovic. Oh, this was great. Bunch of girls. They're trick-or-treating. They're too old to be trick-or-treating. They're going door to door in this neighborhood, and the people in the neighborhood are kind of annoyed that they're so old trick-or-treating, and they're kind of being a nuisance. They're being nuisances in the kind of way, the very classic Tales from the Crypt, like bad people doing bad shit, and then bad shit happens to them, right? Which I said before when I was talking about Demon Night last week. And yeah, so they're going around trick-or-treating. They're going to go off to college next year. This is kind of like their last hurrah. It's kind of a goofy last hurrah. And they have a video. They have a camcorder. This takes place in 2009, I think they said. And they go inside this house, right, where this cheerleader had disappeared a year before. And they are basically like locked in this house that's covered in rancid milk. There's like this ghost mommy who I guess I didn't realize this. She had became pregnant as a result of SA, that kind of, assault. And she ended up ending herself by cord around her neck region from a rafter. And now you have like these ghost children. Now, this is kind of different because maybe it's because it's like the found footage, but like when you're sort of projected into the situation, like in a first person sort of way, Blair Witch style, it's a lot scared. This is where the ghosts scared me. I was scared by this. And they're basically trapped in this house, and there are these there's like this big fat baby guy, and they're just slowly getting like absorbed by the house and becoming the children of this mother specter. And they basically end up in the basement with her, sort of surrounded by her. But what's really gross is like you just see all this milk. You see all this milk just lying around, and it's just imagine like the idea of spending eternity in this sort of haunted house, this dark haunted house, drinking rancid milk from this ghost mommy. It's really disturbing. It's freaky deaky, man. It's freaky friggin' deaky, and I loved it. It was great. It was really great. On to the next segment. This is called, I didn't know the name of this one. It's called Ut Supra Sic Infra, and this was the weakest segment for me. I didn't really know what was going on. There's like an Italian medium, and there's like a mass murder that occurs during a Halloween party, and everybody loses their eyes. It's super weird, right? And this guy survives, and he's interrogated by the police, and like we cut back and forth, and we see what kind of happened to them. They have this whole thing with an old telephone. There's a telephone in the center of the room. It's kind of, so I guess the translation is as above, so below. It's, I don't know. It doesn't really go anywhere. It didn't really go anywhere for me, but he eventually leads the police back to the scene of the crime, and the police also get their eyeballs all sucked up. They basically, the thing is, the way that it's framed is, we don't really know what happened to them, and we kind of see flashbacks, and then we see it happen to police, and I don't know, they're floating in the fucking air, and I didn't get it, man. I didn't get it. It was kind of a surreal short segment. Didn't really work for me. Wasn't a fan. This one seems to be very popular among social media. It's called Fun Size. It was written, directed by Casper Kelly, and in keeping with the previous segment, this year the segments were kind of surreal, right? Like they're not really like framed in like traditional story narrative. So you got four adults leaving a Halloween party, and it seems to be in the same like neighborhood. It's in the same neighborhood as where Coochie Coo happens, because you see the neighbors who are from that segment who are now annoyed, and they find this bowl of weird candy in front of this house. The candies, there's a sign that says one per person, which is a common, trope, right? And that's what I love about these things. Like, hey, let's do a segment around the idea of one per person. You know what I mean? It just like that, like so many fun, wonderful aspects to explore when it comes to Halloween, right? And so they each take one of the candies, and one of them is like really like phallic and has like white cream inside, and I don't know, they get transported via this very strange hand comes out of the bowl. Like it's just unexplained. They go to another dimension. I don't know. This hand clad in red pops out of the bowl of candy, sucks them in. They get sucked in through the bowl of candy into this weird warehouse where this candy is made, and they are basically being stalked by this ghost, this specter, this candy mascot named Fun Size. And he does have supernatural abilities where he has machines that transform people into candy, right? And so you go on the conveyor belt and you get chopped up and turned into candy. And there's this whole subplot with this woman who is engaged. Of the four, there's two couples, and this woman is engaged to this guy she doesn't really want to be, and we find that out, and then it comes back to bite him later on when she escapes and leaves him or whatever. And it's just a zany like jaunt around this crazy factory, and they're trying to avoid being turned into candy, and it's just so fun. He gets, this one guy, he gets sent down the conveyor belt and he just gets chopped up and everything gets covered in chocolate, and he gets his balls and his dick get turned into candy. It's just great, man. Super great, zany, batshit fun that doesn't really like try to explain itself. It doesn't need to explain itself. It just is, and it works. And I was happy with it. The next segment is Kid Print, written and directed by Alex Ross Perry. This was a fucked up segment. This is probably as dark as I've ever seen VHS go. And basically this guy, he owns this business called Kid Print, right? And they're documentary videos that are used to ID missing children. And there's like this string of child and teenager disappearances, and they turn up murdered and mutilated in the worst kind of ways. And the owner of this business, this guy Tim, he's basically like trying to figure out what's going on. He keeps his video camera running, and Halloween is going to happen, and this is right around Halloween time, and we get these broadcasts about like the latest happenings of the disappearances, and kids are turning up and they're just getting like mutilated. Lo and behold, we find out it's one of his staff members, and it just gets dark, man. It gets dark. Like all these like young kids, it like some of it's implied and some of it is very, very in your face graphic. It almost like kind of borderlines on like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, man. It's really like, it's bleak. It's bleak. And there's nothing really fun about it. I mean, I guess it's kind of, there is a tongue-in-cheek sort of sense of things, because the guy who works in the back is the person who's culpable. But Tim gets murdered by two of the other guy's victims, and he gets away with it. And he starts up Kid Print. That Tim ends up being the fall guy, and everybody is like horrified that he committed these crimes when he didn't, and now this guy can continue on doing his thing. And it's just really kind of cold and stark. And by the way, as this is all going on, you have the intercut diet phantasma sequences that are just getting crazier and crazier. And the final segment is the best of them all. And it, like, again, VHS Halloween, you just outdo yourself. I don't even know how to begin talking about how great this is. This is written and directed. It's called Home Haunt, and it's written and directed by Micheline Pitt Norman and R.H. Norman. I guess they're a couple, partners in life and otherwise. I don't know, husband and wife duo. I don't know. So basically, you got this kid and his dad, and they're doing a home haunt. And what is that? Like, home haunts, like, a haunted house that you do, but not like a professional haunt, like an amateur one done by like just a guy on the street. Or, you lock down the block, or you lock down your house, and, you've seen it on The Simpsons and whatnot. Just a great subject to tackle. And this guy does, his haunt every single year, right? Like, he does it with his son. And when the son is young, it's like a family. It's a husband, it's a dad, a mom, and a kid. And when the kid is little, he loves doing it, and he's like the Igor assistant. And as he gets older, he doesn't like doing it as much, and now he's like an adult and he's ready to move out. He's like, fuck you, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. And the dad's begging him to do it one more year. And they're going and they're looking around for props for their haunts, which is like kind of like a maze that they build in the front yard. And they go to this place where they go to the forbidden section in the back, and he finds this Halloween Horrors record, which he steals, right? The dad steals. And the dad is like this goofball who just loves Halloween, and the kid is like, he's older, he's like, fuck you, Dad. He's like, he's too old for this shit. And so it kind of like, it tackles that sort of very relatable subject, like, your kid's getting older and you want to just do things that remind you of like, what it was to grow up with your kid. I don't know. And basically they play this record, and, in line, of course, is the hot girl from school that the kid loves. And he's embarrassed to have his hunchback, and his dad is like Dr. Terror, and he's like Dr. Terror Jr., the mom. She's like an Elvira type. And people are lined up. And the best part is the fucking neighbor with the fucking white ponytail who he's like the guy's name, the dad's, his name is Keith. And so this guy with the fucking ponytail, he's just this curmudgeon-y neighbor who hates that Keith does this stuff, but like also is like going to participate just so that he could shit all over Keith. He's like, come on, Keith, this is so fucking fake, And of course it's setting us up for this, when all the attractions in the maze, they all come to life, especially this witch. And the witch bookends the beginning when they're painting the witch. Like, the attractions literally come to life. And it reminds me of like the frat house in the very first VHS. It's like you're on a roller coaster trying to escape this insane situation. And it's fucking brutal. Nobody is safe. Kids get killed. Everybody gets killed except for the family. And it kind of just ends with hell on earth. It is, I don't even know how, there are no words to describe it. You just have to experience it, man. And it just really is, it's the best of the best of the best of what makes VHS, the VHS series so great. That's what makes the VHS series so great. Stuff like this. And I can't recommend it enough. And then at the very end, we find out that Diet Phantasma is made with like poltergeists. And that's why it is what it is. And that's all that it is. It's streaming on Shudder. If you've never seen, it's a great way to sort of explore the VHS series. If it's your first time, that's a beauty of the VHS series. You could just jump in anywhere and just enjoy it because it's anthology, man. And just anthology is anthology, and that's great. So up next, I decided I was going to let's go with some older stuff. And I went back to watch The First Man in Space from 1959, directed by Robert Day, the picture that leaps ahead of the headlines. The first pilot to leave Earth's atmosphere lands and then vanishes, but something with a craving for blood prowls the countryside. So this is a Criterion film, and it's a science fiction film, and it's kind of amazing because it was made 10 years before we actually did go to the moon, although people had been to outer space. So I guess people had been to outer space, they just hadn't been to the moon. But it just has some very sort of like naivete, sort of like understanding. Like, everybody has like a basic understanding of like, aerodynamics and mechanics of like like you need a rocket to escape the atmosphere. We don't have technology that would allow us to escape the atmosphere in any kind of way, even now, because we never really further refined it. In 1959, the future envisions like and I don't know, it's not really that far into the future, but it's just sort of like maybe we have the technological ability to fly a plane into space. And the whole idea, the mission is we just want to get as far out from the Earth as possible. They want to get 250 miles out from Earth. And something goes wrong, and the pilot gets exposed, and he gets this weird sort of crust that forms over him and turns him into a monster, and he craves blood, and he goes around stalking people. And you have just that really wonderful framing of 1950s sci-fi horror movies, which are either about radiation, monsters, or outer space, right? And you have like the scientists, and you have the heroine, the female lead, and you have the leading man. And sometimes the leading man is a military man, and then you have the scientist. And they're just these archetypes that we kind of know, that are kind of embedded in our minds about, like, you know, classic genre tropes and whatnot. And the First Man into Space is like that. I feel like the First Man into Space doesn't really have a reputation or a following. It's absolutely sci-fi horror. This guy gets turned into a monster in a weird kind of way. I feel like it was sort of like the Incredible Melting Man before the Incredible Melting Man. And they have to use like atmospheric pressure to kind of stabilize him at the end, but he dies anyway. And there's a lot of jingoism. There's a lot of sort of like patriotism for America and self-sacrifice. And that's the interesting thing about watching these old movies, because they really, and this is why I'm especially with the movie I'm going to talk about next, this is why it's so important. It's so utterly important to not to censor or to ban movies that have problematic ideas. This one doesn't. The problematic ideas that this one has are not like, it's not like racial per se or anything, but it's just the sort of the nationalism that came out of World War II, where people really believed in self-sacrifice for their great nation. You know, this kind of, which is, I would say, really sort of metastasized in Vietnam and really became gross and disgusting by the time of the Iraq War. You know what I mean? But in the 50s, man, like, you know, and the Korean War was going on in the 50s. In the 50s, and like in man trying to break through the final frontier, like that stuff was still in the space race. So the idea of self-sacrifice was, or the idea of doing things for your country, was a very noble, honorable sort of thing. So it's kind of really interesting to watch this movie through that, you know, like that prism, you know what I mean? Because that was very real. That was a very real thing. And like the widow at the end, she like takes solace in knowing that her husband's sacrifice allows America to leap forward into the great future, you know, that kind of thing. And it's kind of gross. It's not gross. I hate to use the word gross. It's kind of like, just, I don't know. It's kind of shitty. You know what I mean? Kind of reminds me of that song by Stiff Little Fingers, Wasted Life, you know, a little bit. And yeah, it ends with him getting strapped to this chair, and they use atmospheric pressure to stabilize him, as I said, and they're able to figure out the formula that they need in order to like make it to the next like level of exploration into space. And they're obsessed. And you know, the beautiful thing about movies like this from the 50s is all the exposition, man. They loved exposition. They want to sit there and just have their scientists telling you on camera, explaining, you know, bit by bit, all the mumbo jumbo of it all. You know what I mean? And they do that in spades on this one. It's great. I love listening to it, especially because, you know, it's the 1950s and just very evocative of the time. And I love it. I would definitely recommend it. I saw this on HBO Max. I'm sure it's on the Criterion channel as well. Definitely worth your time. All of those films, I think, are worth your time because they're just interesting to watch. Next up was this was a first watch for me. I watched this with my sonny boy, and we just had, did we have the best fucking time watching this. We really enjoyed it. We watched From Hell It Came from 1957, directed by Dan Milner. Beast Thing from The Flames of Hades. A wrongfully accused South Seas prince is executed and returns as a walking tree stump. This monster is super weird looking, super interesting. I mean, it's a terrible looking monster, but it's just so fun. And you have this indescript, like, indigenous population that it's so racist, man. It's so you almost think maybe it could be Hawaiian, but it's like, it's not supposed to be Hawaiian. It's supposed to be some variation. And they're using very like indigenous sounding native like language names that are clearly made up, like the Tananga and the I don't know. And yeah, this guy, I didn't realize he was a prince. He's executed by the tribal chief, however you want to put it, the chief. And he's buried with this dagger in his heart, and they bury him in this bark coffin. And he comes back as this demon tree stump man that basically goes around stalking everybody and throwing people into quicksand to get his revenge. It's happened once before. There's this whole subplot between his wife helped the tribal chief to murder him, the prince guy, and then you have the scientists who are stationed on the island. And you have the hero scientist, you have the older scientist, and you have the female scientist, and and it frames the indigenous people as the quote unquote stereotypical noble savages, and you have the Western civilized American scientists who have there's this whole back and forth about Western medicine versus indigenous native medicine, and how native indigenous medicine is inferior to Western medicine, and how we need to get the natives and these tribal people to subscribe to our medicine. And it's just, it's just shitty. Of course it's shitty, and but it's interesting in the sense that, like, it's from 1957, and it gives you a view into how people thought at that time, and like where systemic, white supremacy and Western supremacy come from. The guys in the Proud Boys, they'll watch this movie and be like, fuck yeah, that's the right. Yeah, the West is the best. That's how they would look at it, when in reality, there are indigenous medicines. I mean, indigenous people got by on their own, medicines for thousands of years, man. I mean, I think the real sort of, fusing Western medicine and Eastern medicine together through science, that's the way. They talk a lot about science in here, for science, but there's a lot of science in native medicine, man. In fact, all native medicine is predicated and impacted by science. It's just a different kind of science. It's like, they look at plants as teachers, man. The plants teach you the fucking knowledge. Whereas in Western philosophy, men have come up with this knowledge. It's not given by nature. I mean, all of it comes from nature, and that's what's interesting, the contrast here. And so you have this incredibly slow-moving, non-threatening monster. And it's interesting too, not only is native medicine inferior to Western medicine, but also when they're trying to get rid of the monster, the demon, the indigenous plan of pushing the monster into a booby trap like pit and then torching it doesn't work. But shooting it with guns, shooting the dagger with guns into quicksand, that's what saves the day. And that, of course, and at the very end, you have the chieftain or whoever. Hi.
Can I come?
Yeah, you want to come?
Yay!
This is my daughter who's come to say hello. I don't know that she's ever been
Yay!
on screen. Say hi, Noah.
No,
What do you mean no?
because I just don't want to.
Don't scream into the mic because
Wah.
you're going to blow out everybody's ears.
No.
I'm talking about, remember the horror movie we watched with the stump monster with Jordan?
Oh,
Yeah. So that's what, anything you want to say?
yeah. No. All that I want to say
You
is
don't have
that
to scream. You talk low.
I like the movie a lot because it was fun and I liked when they drowned.
What, the people in quicksand?
Yeah.
Noah is ruthless and she loves horror movies and scary things, and nothing phases her. My son is a little bit more sensitive. Is Jordan more sensitive?
Yeah, he literally is scared of a vampire.
Don't embarrass him.
Well,
Jordan likes horror stuff too. He's just a little bit more,
I'm not. Why'd you steal Mrs. Spoon, which was my spoon that I made a long, long time ago?
Because I'm so proud of it, and it's my spoon now.
He says he has a crush on him.
Mrs. Spoon is my girlfriend, okay?
Told you guys.
So listen, let me finish. I'm almost done here, so let me go.
Okay, sure. I can go upstairs and jump.
No, don't jump.
Okay, why?
Was that you jumping before?
No, that was Jordan. He was on the playroom couch. He's jumping.
Okay. I'll come up to tuck you in. I was telling about last night. I snuggled with you and then I passed out and I wasn't able to do the show as a result.
So you would have done this yesterday night.
Yeah.
If you would have passed out in my bed.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I'll read to you we got Hansel and Gretel, written by Stephen King, illustrated by Maurice Sendak. Watch the microphone, sweetie.
Oh yeah.
What's the name of your doll?
Her name is. I got her just today. Because my dad's mom, meaning my grandma.
Bobby, my mother. Yes.
She bought me this Barbie doll. You make your own cake with it, but I didn't bring that down. I only brought the Barbie.
Okay.
So I just wanted to come down and say hi.
It's so nice. Someday would you like to do a show with me, like just you and me? Straight up?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna do that.
But it has to be about my Barbie.
Wait, what about K-pop Demon Hunter?
Yeah, we have to do a review of K-pop Demon Hunters tomorrow night.
Do you like it? What do you like about K-pop Demon Hunter?
Because it's like a preppy movie, and preppy means it means that you're really pretty and not ugly like him.
Ew. She's savage, by the way.
What is that thing? You have a pimple inside your eyebrow.
Oh yeah. Well, you have look at this pimple right here. I'm gonna pop this.
Owie.
I'm gonna pop this pimple right here.
Owie.
This guy over here, metal fetishist, says my daughters love K-pop Demon Hunter too. So you're not the only one, Noshi. Okay, go.
Okay.
Go. Run along. Bye. That's my wonderful daughter who I love. I love her so much. It's all good. It's all good in the neighborhood. I don't know if that was her first. I think that was her first appearance. This show's been running long anyway, so I have to wrap this up. Where was I? What was I talking about? I was talking about just the whatever, just that, like they're like oh like your medicine is so much better than our medicine, please teach us your ways. And of course the benevolent white American scientist is like, of course I will, of course I will, and that was it. It's a great schlocky whatever movie. Absolutely worth a watch. That monster is iconic. The Misfits wrote a song based on the song title. From Hell They Came is based on From Hell It Came. So how about that? What do we got next? Okay, we got 2 more to go. Oh, no, we have 3 more to go. Wow, I screwed that up, huh? All right, so next up we have... This is why I should not have. This is just going on way too fucking long. Too many fucking movies. So the next movie I watched with the kiddies was Scooby-Doo from 2002, directed by Raja Gosnell and written by James Gunn. I think this was James Gunn's first big-time feature film. He had done Troma movies. He did Tromeo and Juliet and Citizen Toxie. This was his first big screenwriting gig. Be afraid, be kind of afraid. When the Mystery Inc. gang is invited to Spooky Island, a popular amusement park, they soon discover that the attractions aren't the only things that are spooky. Strange things are happening, and it's up to Scooby, Shaggy, Fred, Daphne, and Velma to uncover the truth behind the mysterious happenings. I got to tell you, man, this was such a fun revisit. I love the Scooby-Doo movies. I love them. They are deeply nostalgic for me. I just of like that time period, what a cast. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Linda Cardellini, who I just think is just breathtakingly beautiful. Matthew Lillard, Freddie Prinze Jr. Matthew Lillard and Freddie Prinze Jr. did 5 movies together between 1998 and 2004. And this was the 4 of the 5 movies that they did. And I mean, the casting was perfect, man. Particularly Matthew Lillard is Shaggy forevermore, forever and a day. And it's sort of like the last movie in the cycle of 90s adaptation remakes of older films. I'm thinking of stuff like the Brady Bunch movie, you know what I mean? Coneheads, stuff like that, the Addams Family, where you took like this old IP and sort of updated it for like a contemporary sort of pop culture. And I feel like Scooby-Doo is the last great one of those. And James Gunn, this might be some of James Gunn's best screenwriting. It's so much fun. The CGI doesn't hold up, although Scooby's CGI holds up. The monsters themselves, not as much. You have Mr. Bean is in it, and Scrappy is the big bad behind it all, and that's really fun. It's written with a lot of love, man. It's written with a lot of love and understanding. There's a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of inside jokes. One thing that I thought was really sad is that, Velma is a queer-coded character. She's gay. Like, she's always been gay. Like, there's nothing that explicitly says that she's gay, but she's fucking gay. Everybody knows she's gay. And, like, I guess in the original script, she's sort of pining for Daphne, which just is so fucking great, which is such a nod to like the tongue-in-cheek subversive nature of the show. In the same way that like Shaggy falls in love with a girl named Mary Jane. He's like, that's my favorite name. And we all understand why. Or at the end when they're like, there's smoke coming out of the Mystery Inc. van. And we know that we think that it's pot. And, obviously Shaggy and Scooby have the munchies. They always had the munchies. Like let's split up, gang, so that, Scooby and Shaggy can go get stoned, and Daphne and Fred are going to go bone, and, Velma's going to go, lose her glasses and wander around on the ground, I don't know. There's like a lot of, man, Scooby-Doo is really enmeshed in so much pop culture. But I just thought it was sad that they sort of, the subversive nature of Velma being secretly in love with Daphne got left on the cutting room floor. They cut all that stuff out and they shoehorned this male love interest for Velma. And it's just so like lame. She's so obviously gay and she's so obviously playing it gay. And, so to have this like very sort of homogenized, it's because that's what it's meant for. It's made for a wide group of people who may not be so turned on to the fact that she's gay. So it's got to be like this homogenized element that's going to appeal to the most amount of people. And it's just a shame that they didn't stick to their guns. The opening sequence is great. It gives us the last adventure of Mystery Inc. before they have like this 5-year break. And then they have to reconvene and reunite on Spooky Island. It's just so much fucking fun. The period dress is so dated now. It felt like at the time it felt like a real modern movie. And it's interesting because the cast is like a very 90s cast, but in the early 2000s. This is after, we have like Sean William Scotts and Jason Biggs and those actors, and like Will Ferrell and what's his face? Vince Vaughn. Like they're all like kind of like rising to the top now. Judd Apatow hasn't come into the picture yet. So this is kind of like the sun setting on some of these 90s actors. And I would love for them to do a reunion movie. It would be so fucking great. I'm glad that we have these 2 films, and I'll probably watch the other one, Monsters Unleashed, at some point in the remainder of the month. If you've never seen Scooby-Doo, this really, I'm giving this 5 stars. There's 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars. If you've never seen this Scooby-Doo movie, absolutely check it out. It's just a good fucking time, man. You just can't go wrong with that. Up next, this is my fault. I totally forgot to log. I forgot to log this next movie, which we watched on the same day. Let me see here if I can pull this up. Here we go. I can't believe this movie is 18 years old. Isn't it crazy that this movie is 18 years old? Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007, directed by Tim Burton. Never forget, never forgive. The infamous story of Benjamin Barker, aka Sweeney Todd, who sets up a barber shop down in London, which is the basis for a sinister partnership with his fellow tenant, Mrs. Lovett, based on the hit Broadway musical. So it's based on the hit Broadway musical. I think it's Andrew Lloyd Webber. No, it's Stephen Sondheim. I think that's the name of the dude. And Tim Burton, perfect guy to take something on like this. I love how he gives him a white streak in his hair, doing the Dave Vanian, the 1980s gothic Dave Vanian from The Damned sort of nod, which is just perfect for a guy like Tim Burton to sort of inject these subcultural elements into something that is mainstream. We were just talking about homogenization. That's homogenization, but I think a good kind of homogenization where you're bringing something that's sort of very counterculture to the masses in a better kind of way. I would say that this film adaptation suffers from way too much CGI-itis. I mean, there's so much unnecessary, lazy, dare I say lazy CGI. Like if someone like Ridley Scott had adapted this, he would not have used it. However, nobody is better suited for this than Tim Burton. And I will tell you, this is dark. I mean, sure, there is a tongue firmly planted in cheek, but this is a very dark it's a Greek tragedy, man. And I watched it with my son, and it was the throat slashings were too much for him. So he had to cover his eyes for that stuff. But again, I base everything on Predator. He saw Predator when he was 7 and he fucking loved it. And so I'm like, I always ask myself when I'm going to like show him something, like if he watched Predator, could he watch this? If he could watch Predator 2, could he watch this? You know what I mean? And so I let him watch Sweeney Todd. And the way it ends, it's so fucking Shakespearean, man. It's just the way that it all plays out. And this viewing really hit me. This was the viewing that hit me, like how truly dark and stark and bleak and just horrifying. And, I don't know, man, it's just, it really is. It's very well done. The casting as well. Alan Rickman is incredible. You have so many people from Harry Potter, I guess, brought in by Helena Bonham Carter, who was Tim Burton's partner when she and Johnny Depp starred in like every Tim Burton movie during the 2000s, right? Like 5 or 6 movies like in a row, straight up. And fuck yeah, dude. Just really like bleak. The song, I'm not a big fan of the songs. I don't like the Sondheim, whatever. I don't like the way he writes songs. They're not very catchy. They don't have hooks. There's we talked a lot about metaphor, my son and I always pause movies. I'm like, what's the metaphor here, son? What's the metaphor here? We talked about the cracked mirror that he stares into, which is a metaphor for his sort of his psyche and his morality. How he sings about how the razors are his friends, that he doesn't have human beings are not his friends, but the instrumentation for violence and revenge are his friends. And of course, those instruments are turned on him at the end when the boy then ends up dispatching Sweeney Todd down in the basement cellar. He gets his just desserts. I mean, Sweeney Todd really works as a Tales from the Crypt episode as well. Tales from the Crypt is really just like karmatic justice, just desserts from wicked people. Sweeney Todd is an irredeemable anti-hero. I wouldn't call him a protagonist. I wouldn't say there's no real protagonist. I guess maybe the kid that runs off with his daughter. He tells her at the end, he says, "Forget my face," which is so ironic considering that he's speaking to his daughter and he doesn't even realize it. Or maybe he does realize it somewhere deep down in his subconscious. He does realize it and recognizes he doesn't want his daughter to know him in this way. And just before he had dispatched his wife, her mother, who had survived, Alan Rickman is this horrible, nasty judge. There's the scene where they sentence the kid to death by hanging because he steals, which is just so evocative of Victorian London. My son had acted in Mary Poppins, so I thought this was kind of like the other bookend for him, right? He loved it. He loved Sweeney Todd. Again, not the violence, so much. And I had to cover his eyes. The way that they use color for her like sort of fantasy where she's kind of imagining a life that they could have together, married and whatnot, is just so great. And the way he's so banal, like this is Tim Burton at his best, man. And there is something to be said, like typically Tim Burton, when he's doing original stuff, it's always going to be like top notch, and when he adapts things, it's always like style over substance. I would say that Sweeney Todd balances the style and the substance. Sacha Baron Cohen is so great as Pernelli. He's just fantastic. That whole scene is fantastic. And he's like secretly, he's actually somebody from Benjamin Barker's past. This is great, man. It's really fucking great. And the way the movie just builds to the revenge that you're thirsty for it. You're bloodthirsty for the revenge, the recognition of the Judge Turpin recognizing that Sweeney Todd is actually Benjamin Barker, and just the way that Mrs. Lovett is pushed into the oven, kind of like the witch. There is a very Hansel and Gretel sort of affinity, sort of energy to this whole thing. And it's great. It's great. I can't recommend that enough. Fucking Sweeney Todd. I'll definitely, man, I would say it's a very rewatchable movie, and I will continue to rewatch it as the years go on. I can't believe it's going to be 20 years old. 2 more years, it's going to be 20. That's insane to me. That's insane. Dominique asks have you ever seen This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse? If not, you should check it out. It's subtitles though. It's like The Cabinet of Kilgary. Motherfucker, you don't think I know Coffin Joe? Coffin Joe is my dude. I got the entire box set sitting over there of all 3 films. This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. At Midnight, your corpse. I have all 3 films with the comic books. I friggin' love Coffin Joe. And I've seen the 4th film as well that he did before he died. Dude, a Brazilian dude. Coffin Joe is amazing. I really should watch at least one Coffin Joe this year. He's so wicked that he eats meat on the Sabbath. That's how wicked Coffin Joe is. I love Coffin Joe. All right, man, this was a long motherfucking episode. And it was long because I don't know what I was thinking. I really got to do these before. So for our final film of the evening, we have Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake, of course, directed by Tom Savini, written by George Romero. There is a fate worse than death. In this remake of the classic 1968 film, a group of people are trapped inside a farmhouse as the legions of the Walking Dead try to get inside and use them for food. Now, I could sit here and I could talk about this movie for hours. I could talk about the original Night of the Living Dead for 5 fucking hours without getting tired. And I could definitely talk about the remake in the same kind of way. The remake came about because they had lost the copyright to the original film, and this was a way for them to kind of cash in on something that had always kind of eluded them. Now, here's the irony, the paradoxical irony of Night of the Living Dead, and the reason why Night of the Living Dead went into the public domain in the first place was because they had chopped off the title cards. It was originally going to be called Night of the Living Anubis or Night of the Flesh Eaters, and they chopped off the title cards and they never put the copyright on the new title, Night of the Living Dead. So when it was screened publicly, for some reason that enters things into the public domain. And what had happened, what had started in the 50s was you had all the Universal horror films were packaged, right? I'd love to do a whole show on this, actually. They were packaged and sold off for television for the first time. And you had monster kids in the 60s discovering all of these movies that had existed and sort of languished in obscurity for in some cases, 20 years prior, right? And now all of a sudden, Lugosi and Karloff, they're becoming household names. Claude Rains, they're becoming household names all over again because of this resurgence. And one of the things that comes with this licensing of these films is that you have these monster TV shows, right? You have all these local monster hosts. You have Zachary, and you have Elvira, and you have Svengoolie, all these different guys. They're all regional and local. You have the development of chiller theater. All that comes about. And it is in this format, in this medium, in this venue, that Night of the Living Dead gets shown everywhere in every kind of way to monster kids in the 70s, right? To fast forward a bit, because now you have these local programs. And so this movie gets, vultured in every conceivable way by these monster movies, like the Sunday night monster matinee movie, right? Like all that gets, and you have Bill Cardille, who's in it, Chilly Billy. He has a cameo. He was the Pittsburgh one, and so the filmmakers received worldwide recognition, particularly George Romero, who got put on the map along with the other guys in Image 10, John Russo, Russ Streiner, Gary Streiner, Rudy Ricci to a lesser extent. And although there is a split between George Romero and Russo and Streiner, they go off and do their thing, and Romero does his own thing. But they come back together in 1989 to make this remake, and you have Romero as the executive producer and the writer, and he rewrites his script, and he does something that I think every single good remake should do, which is subvert the original in some way. And so about 2/3 of the way through, he kind of starts to really veer off the track from his original script. I say his script, it's not just his script. He co-wrote it with John Russo, but everybody knows that George Romero was the writer, the true writer of Night of the Living Dead. Not to diminish whatever John Russo contributed, but it was one of those kinds of things. Listen, John Russo did a bang-up job with the Return of the Living Dead novelization. That's a whole other story that we already have on the channel, so I'm not going to go into that right now. But so they do this movie, and of course they get Tom Savini to direct, and Tom Savini is the perfect person to direct the Night of the Living Dead movie. However, it gets neutered. It's neutered. They don't get to shoot 30. There's a lot of there's a hectic production. There's a lot of hectic behind the scenes surrounding the production. Savini doesn't get to shoot 30% of the film. It gets edited to shit, so all the gory bits get taken out. And in this way, it's sort of like an imperfect, perfect remake. So it's perfect in the sense that it sort of subverts the original. It goes different places, particularly with Barbara, who's portrayed by Patricia Tallman, and she is just this fierce, strong-willed heroine that is sort of opposite of Judith O'Dea's original Barbara, who also, has this heroic sacrifice that gets overwritten for Barbara as the sole survivor of the Night of the Living Dead. Harry Cooper survives the night as well, but she takes him out. It's the whole ending is different. It's great too. And of course, Tony Todd just does such a great job as Ben. I mean, he really does Dwayne Jones the justice that anybody would have to do to even enter such large shoes as Dwayne Jones. And, I wish the movie pushed the envelope harder than it does, but it doesn't diminish how great it is. We get the same sort of, like, Savini really understands the subject matter, of course, because he's a disciple of George Romero. And there's nobody that George Romero should trust more to direct Night of the Living Dead than someone like Tom Savini. It makes sense. It just surprises me that there's not more corpse eating. I watched the director's cut for the first time at the Alamo Drafthouse. And so I wasn't sure what to expect, right? I wasn't sure. It starts off in black and white. And once the cemetery ghoul appears, everything goes to color. And I kind of felt like that didn't really matter. That was kind of meaningless. Why would you do that? It was sort of just unnecessary because like, I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't Wizard of Oz and it wasn't, Rocky Horror. Like, what was the point? What was the point of that? It's a remake. It's supposed to be in color. It didn't need to start off. We didn't need that nod. There are other ways to do nods to the original. Trying to think what else. Even the beginning, there's subversions of the beginning, kind of like red herring to sort of trick us because we're very familiar with Night of the Living Dead, so we know where it's going to go. And it's like, we don't want, and I think that's what George Romero wanted. He's like, you already know the story. I want to give you something slightly different. I really respect that. I would say there was a cycle of remakes that really are sort of anchored in the 80s, but started in the 70s. I would say it really started with Invasion of the Bounty Snatchers in 1978, starring Donald Sutherland. You have Jeff Goldblum in there. That was just the beginning of this incredible trend of remaking these movies from the 50s and the 60s. And it continued on, of course, with John Carpenter's The Thing, which everybody considers to be immaculate, part of the Holy Trinity within the greater spectrum of remakes. And then followed up by The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly, and of course The Blob, right? And then I would say, though it was made in 89, but it came out in 90, you have Night of the Living Dead. And those five are like, to me, those are like, that's the upper echelon of immaculate, perfect remakes that are just as great in their own way as the originals themselves. Lesser ones are Tobe Hooper's Invaders from Mars, as well as Blood Diner, which is a remake / sequel to Blood Feast, which was supposed to be Blood Feast 2, which was supposed to have a soundtrack by the Misfits, by the way. One thing that I've noticed in this last watch that I've noticed it in the previous time I watched Night of the Living Dead is sort of the politics of location between Ben and Harry Cooper. It's the greatest aspect of what makes Night of the Living Dead work so well is not the living versus the dead. The dead are sort of this primer for the pressure cooker that's taking place in the house. That's where the real focus is. It's the antagonism between people put in a horrible situation and unable or really like trying to survive and endure, and what happens when you're put in this pressure cooker of a situation. And you have these two schools of thought from two leaders or people that are, I hate to use this word, alpha, right? They're alpha in their sort of approach to everything. You have Ben, who's coming from the city, and you have Harry Cooper, who is also not neighbors, as Harry Cooper says. You don't look like neighbors yourself. Harry Cooper and Helen Cooper and their daughter Sarah are coming from some engagement. They're dressed like in a tuxedo, where although in the original they're just sort of dressed in a suit and tie and whatnot. I would say the antagonism from Harry Cooper in the original is vastly different from the one in the remake. In the original, Harry Cooper is selfish, but he's not inherently evil. Everything he does is sort of done in service to his family, right? Or in service to his ideology and his way of being. This Harry Cooper is like selfish in a very deeply sort of evil and egotistical way. Like Ben and Harry have egos in the original Night of the Living Dead, but it's taken to a whole new level where, and in a way it sort of hobbles the character of Harry Cooper. I prefer the Harry Cooper in the original film. He's just way more complex. He wants to do the right thing. He gets blinded by the power of the rifle and wants to be in control of the situation that way. The big conflict between Ben as the protagonist force and Harry Cooper as the antagonist force is the mentality over what makes the most sense. Do we want to stay above ground in the main living space and board up the house where we have options where we can escape in any way, shape, or form? Or do we want to go down in the cellar where there's one door and we only have to board up one door and we could just wait to be rescued? And here's where, for me, again, I heard very recently, like classics, like real classics are things that timeless classics are movies that you can revisit over and over and over again, and you're going to learn something new every time, right? And that's why you can watch them over and over and over again, because they're so rich that they just keep giving. And for me, what I noticed, and I've talked before about the racial aspects. They weren't intentional, but in casting a black man as Ben, the movie suddenly, all of the protagonistic, antagonistic conflict becomes deeply racially charged and deeply racially charged, especially for the time period, right? And in this case, you also have the politics of location. Ben is a black man traveling through the rural back countryside, terrified of not just the dead, but also the fucking living, right? When you think about it, like it's not, that subtext is not there consciously in what Romero wrote, but it's definitely there as a viewer. You have to imagine that Ben is just as worried about getting shot up by some white folks as he is by getting his ass chewed on by fucking dead people coming out of the ground. And then you have Harry Cooper, who is perfectly happy to like corner himself in a basement where there is no way to escape and just simply wait to be rescued. Because in his politics of location, that's what would happen. Some good old boys are going to come down there and rescue him, and he's going to be fine. But for a black guy like Ben, he's like, fuck no, I can't rely on that. The only person I can rely on is myself, and I need you. We need to rely on each other through this teamwork to survive the night. And what's interesting, the irony of the original film is that Ben does survive the night in the very place that Harry Cooper suggested. However, the irony is that when Ben comes out of the basement, he's murdered by, a guy with a gun at the behest of a sheriff. All they say is, oh, there's another one. And you can read that in a million different ways. Now, on the surface level, you could say, oh, he's talking about another ghoul, another zombie. But there's this weird sort of uncomfortable subtext of like, he might just very well be saying, oh, look, there's a black guy, shoot him, like straight the fuck up. And after 2020, that gets compounded, man, when you think, and it gets intensified as the years, like that's why Night of the Living Dead is this very contemporary thing. Now, the way that it ends, that all that kind of gets eroded a little bit with the remake, a little bit, in the fact that it's Harry Cooper survives at the end, and Ben dies from wounds inflicted by Harry. The way that Romero rewrites the scene, it's like the clashing of two egos, and maybe that's also evocative of the time period. We're leaving the 80s, coming into the 90s. In the 90s, there was this like renewed optimism that we're living in this more enlightened time, and that racism is kind of gone, right? Like there was this sort of like utopic view of like the 90s, of like the modern 90s where racism doesn't exist anymore. And so therefore maybe that conflict doesn't work in the same way. Now, mind you, I can't say for certain in the 60s when Romero claims that when they were making Night of the Living Dead, they weren't thinking about race, and they had cast Dwayne Jones because he was the best man for the job. And I truly believe that. But I also have to believe that somewhere in Dwayne Jones's mind, perhaps, maybe, that he is thinking about race as the only black cast member, right, in Pittsburgh. I wonder, it does make you wonder, and then possibly the only black cast or crew member. I don't know if there were any other black crew members, but it makes you sort of want, and really it's a testament to the progressive nature of Image 10, but also that, I mean, how did they not think of race? How was race not thought of, especially at that time with the civil rights movement, and Martin Luther King Jr. gets assassinated. Like, you have to think that race comes into the making of that movie. I don't know. I mean, the only people that could really answer that question now are Russ Streiner and John Russo and Gary Streiner, because they're the only ones left alive. They're the only ones there. But Russ Streiner, I mean, he was the filmmaker on Night of the Living Dead. He is a good first eyewitness source. I've been wanting to interview him for the longest time. I met John Russo a long time ago. He seemed very, very crabby, bitter man. I would love to interview Russ Streiner. I don't know if he'd ever do it. I tried to get him some years back, and he was a little apprehensive. Who knows? We'll see. That's it, man. That's it. Fuck. Two fucking hours, man. Wasn't expecting it to be this long. Thank you for joining me. I have more. Yeah, Dominique says, I love this, Dominique. You're so right. Good movies are like onions, many layers, and you might cry or have a good time. Well fucking said. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to go. Thank you, everybody. Peace, hair grease. Keep watching. We'll be back next week to chalk up the next week of